Driving down Wesley Drive, Mike Morrison glanced at the 11 houses from the corner to his own. He had framed 8 of them, while the remaining 3 were built by John Piercy, a local contractor. There was a friendly rivalry between Piercy Construction and Curtis Construction, Inc., where Mike worked. Once, when John ran out of concrete, Curtis's crew helped him finish the job. Of course, we know the southeast corner's the only one that'll still be standing after the first good snowstorm, joked Lyle Curtis. Ah, screw you, Curtis, John laughed. Both companies also participated in the 4th of July picnic at Jordan Air Park, competing in barbecues, softball, and horseshoes before watching the fireworks together. Mike was puzzled, but not worried when he saw John Piercy's SUV in front of his house, recognized by the plate Piercy 1. Mike parked in the garage and went inside. Hey, Rhonda, what's John Piercy doing here? Mike called out. Living room, Rhonda replied loudly. Mike entered the living room, expecting to shake hands, but the scene stopped him. Rhonda and John were on the small couch, with Rhonda looking uncomfortable and John looking smug. Michelle and Mickey were on the long couch, excited. So what's going on here? Mike asked.
Mike, there's no easy way to say this,
Rhonda mumbled, avoiding eye contact. Then just spit it out, Mike demanded. He's got a swimming pool, Michelle interrupted. And a boat, Mickey added. He said he'll take me to Merrily Lake. See, Mike, John started. Don't say another word, Mike interrupted. Mike, don't make this harder, Rhonda snapped. Oh, I'm the problem here? Mike said sarcastically. Now there's no need for... John began again. I said not another word, Snake, Mike growled. John stood up and Mike shoved him back. Mike, don't you dare, Rhonda screamed. I thought you'd be a man about this, John snarled. What part of not another word don't you understand? Mike asked, backhanding John. He almost smiled at John's stunned expression. Almost, but his family was falling apart. His daughter was choosing a pool over him, and his son preferred fishing trips on a boat. When Mike last took Michelle to the Y, she spent her time posing for boys and didn't swim. He'd taken Mickey to Merrily Lake, fishing from the banks, but Mike always ended up doing the work. After Rhonda, the kids, and John left, Mike sat at the kitchen table with a Coors and read the divorce petition. Rhonda wanted primary custody and $400 a month per child, plus half the medical and education costs. The microwave meal was tasteless, but Mike knew he needed to eat to absorb the beers he'd have that night. He had 2.5 beers and decided not to get drunk. He had work in the morning, wife or no wife, kids or no kids, and Rhonda wasn't worth the hangover. Rhonda had been a buck-toothed, flat-chested 18-year-old when Mike first met her at an auto parts store, muttering to herself as she tried to pick a battery for her Nissan. Charts are right here, Mike said quietly. Uh-huh, but my car's not on there, Rhonda snapped. And Tweedledum over there is too busy to get off his fat bum. So what kind of car you got? Mike asked. He found the battery she needed and even offered to install it. Tweedledum glared as he rang up the purchase. So where's the Cardinal? Mike asked, carrying the heavy battery out. 17th and Jackson, Rhonda said bitterly. Had to walk here. Mike drove his Ford F-250 to the apartment complex and installed the new battery. Rhonda's father, Bud Livingston, came out and talked with Mike. Bud discovered that Mike was a 24-year-old employed by Curtis Construction, a bit of a mechanic, and enjoyed Coors beer. Well, son, if you're going to date my daughter, you need to save up every penny, Bud chuckled. Girl never saw a shiny thing she didn't want. Dad, Rhonda huffed, glancing at Mike. Mike had sandy blonde hair, a strong face, and light blue eyes. His muscular build and tan skin showed he worked hard outdoors. If Rhonda hadn't been so angry when they met, she would have flirted with him. But just as she was working up the courage, her father came out. Good to know, Mike nodded to Bud as he closed the hood on Rhonda's Cardinal. A few days later, Tweedledum called Mike. Hey, Mike, know that snotty girl you helped with the battery? She wants your phone number. Give it to her? Yeah, sure, Mike agreed. Mike soon found out Bud was right. Rhonda had to have more of everything. When Mike picked her up for their second date, Bud showed Mike Rhonda's overflowing closet, filled with shoes, boots, and 6 pairs of flip-flops. Hey, Rhonda, that's one for each toe, huh? Bud teased. On their second date, Mike also found out that Rhonda loved lovemaking. Pregnancy suited her, and by the time she gave birth to Michelle, she had blossomed. She convinced Mike she needed braces, believing it would bring her more attention and gifts. Just after the braces were removed, revealing a beautiful smile, they discovered she was pregnant again. Really? Just got my rear into a size 4 and I'm pregnant again? Rhonda shrilled. Mike, you're getting a vasectomy. No one's cutting on Big Mike, Mike calmly said, rocking his sleepy daughter. Motherhood did curb some of Rhonda's demands. She grew to realize that her wants had to take second place to her children's needs. Now, sitting at his kitchen table, Mike poured out his third beer and decided to ask Lyle for a good attorney. He agreed with most of Rhonda's demands, but wondered how she'd pay her share of expenses, probably with John Piercy's help. However, Rhonda's demand for half his retirement and home value was unfair, as she hadn't contributed to either. When Mike approached Lyle Curtis about a lawyer, Lyle's face grew redder. "That snake. Exactly what I called him," Mike said. "I wish I'd said something," Lyle snapped, digging through his wallet. "Saw John hanging around Rhonda at the picnic. She looked too friendly." Mike remembered the outfit. Rhonda had worn a tied-up shirt and cut-off shorts. Barbara Trenton, the lawyer, listened to Mike's story, reviewed receipts and bank statements, and noted Rhonda's expenditures. She made changes to the divorce petition and faxed the revised documents to Rhonda's attorney. "We'll probably have to go into mediation, but I've got to tell you, Mr. Morrison, I'm amazed you managed any savings at all with the amount of money your wife spends," Barbara confided to Mike, "and she didn't contribute a penny." "Yeah, well, Lyle's a good man to work for," Mike said. "Uh-huh," Barbara smiled lightly. Barbara was right. They went into mediation. Rhonda contested the revised petition, seeing the money and house as hers. During this time, she made it difficult for Mike to see his kids, smugly telling him he should have signed the original petition. Lyle Curtis also played a role, spreading the word about John Piercy's affair with Rhonda. Building supply retailers refused credit to Piercy Construction, and John's funds dwindled. When his bank delayed a loan for a new subdivision, John was furious. Mike's kids were sullen during his weekends with them, talking about the fun they had with John and Rhonda. "We could be water skiing if we were with Mom and Mr. John," Michelle sneered when Mike suggested the why. "Yeah, Dad," Mickey said. "I even got a boogie board." When John Piercy bid for a new office building in Raquel Falls, the board rejected him due to his personal life. Lyle Curtis and Mike were part of the winning bid. John's mood worsened when his painter, Ray Mangetti, told him his paycheck had bounced. Ray had been with John since the beginning and now stood nervously in John's office. "Hey, I need to get paid," Ray said. A homeowner hired John for a basement remodel, but John had no workers since they were now with Curtis. John had to cancel the job. Brian White, Rhonda's attorney, also demanded payment. When Rhonda tried to use her credit cards, she found Mike had canceled them. Her father, Bud, grudgingly loaned her money and suggested she apologize to Mike. In mediation, Michael Schiff reviewed the petitions and bank statements. He frowned when he heard Rhonda's smug response to Mike about not seeing his kids if he didn't sign the original petition. "So, Mrs. Morrison, the children are pawns for money?" Michael snapped. "It's not like that," Brian White said, "but Mrs. Morrison does have expenses." "Mr. Morrison also has expenses and has faithfully sent child support," Michael said. "As for Mrs. Morrison's expenses, she should get a job." A month after the mediation, on Mike's 39th birthday, he called Rhonda to ask if the kids could join him for a celebration at Benny's Burger Bar. "Your dad wants to take you to Benny's Burger Bar. It's his birthday," Rhonda snapped at the kids. Mike's heart broke when his daughter whined, "Do I have to?" Mike," Rhonda said, but the call had already been terminated. She left a message, trying to sound cheerful, saying the kids had plans and suggesting the weekend instead. Friday afternoon, Rhonda waited for Mike's call to pick up the kids. Michelle was annoyed, preferring to hang out with her friend Catelyn Grady. Mickey was sullen and moody. At 6:30, Rhonda called Mike's phone and got the message that the number was no longer in service. She tried again and got the same message. "Almost ready?" John asked, seeing Rhonda in a dark suit. "Are we ready?" Rhonda asked. "Mike hasn't picked up the kids yet." "Call him," John spat angrily. "Great idea, John. His number's not in service," Rhonda snapped. "Good, he's struggling too," John gloated. "Come on, kids," Rhonda sighed, slipping on her heels. "Get your stuff. We'll drop you off at your dad's." "I wanted to take the vet," John complained. "The clients won't see the car, John. Let's go. We're going to be late." John grumbled, but grabbed the Mercedes-Benz keys. Michelle and Mickey angrily got into the car. "Oh my God," Rhonda gasped, seeing a real estate sign in front of Mike's house. "Come on, they're already there," John ordered. "Let's go. Get out." "John, they can't stay here. He's not here," Rhonda shrieked. "If we screw this meeting up because of your kids," John hissed, speeding off. Rhonda received an $800 check on the 3rd of the month. The checks always arrived on the 3rd, unless it was a Sunday or holiday. Then they came on the 2nd. Mike had heard Michelle whine, "Do I have to?" And Mickey sullenly asked, "Why?" Ending the call, Mike sat at the table and cried for the first time since his mother died. Rhonda had taken everything valuable. The consignment shop took most of the furniture except the recliner and mattresses. They assured him the dolls, action figures, and skates would sell quickly. Lyle Curtis cursed when Mike said he was leaving Raquel Falls in Colorado. The men hugged, and some of the crew also said their goodbyes. "Where are you going?" they asked, seeing the travel trailer hitched to his truck. "Probably south," Mike shrugged. "Tired of freezing in the winter." Barbara Trenton agreed to handle the home sale. The real estate agent, after Lyle had the house repainted and recarpeted, was confident she could list it for $160,000. Mike picked up the divorce decree in Oakleaf, Texas. To celebrate, he went to Tijuana Jack's for a half-pound burger, spicy fries, and 2 cold beers. He even had a $50 lap dance from a redhead. Finding work was easy. Scanduro Construction hired him after Lyle's glowing recommendation. The pay was good and the work steady, but the nights were long. Living in his travel trailer, Mike worked from 7 in the morning until 3 or 4 in the afternoon, staying late to clean the site. "Mike, day's over," Gio Tanacetti said one afternoon. "Uh-huh," Mike said, sweeping up. "Wife's making meatloaf and red gravy. Come over," Gio said. "Thanks, but I think I'll..." "Hurts my feelings. You gonna say no to Catherine Marie's meatloaf?" Gio said. "Need to shower," Mike said. "Then do it. 1217 Ferguson Drive. Here." "Okay," Mike agreed. The house was large, similar to those in Raquel Falls, Colorado. As Mike parked, homesickness hit him. Catherine Marie Tanacetti, a French-Canadian, was plump and pale, contrasting with her dark, lanky husband, Gio. They were always touching, a hand pat here, a hip brush there. Gio sat at the table's head, Catherine Marie on his right, their 20-year-old daughter Tony on his left, then their 15-year-old son Joey, and 17-year-old daughter Cheryl. The meal was loud except for Gio's prayer. Mike learned Joey played football at St. Peter and Paul High. Cheryl was a senior at Sacred Ascension, planning to study biosynthetic engineering at the University of Louisiana. "Must get it from her mama," Gio said proudly, "not from her old man." "Tony, you're quiet," Catherine Marie noted. "I'm starting my last year of college education," Tony mumbled. Since kindergarten, she wanted to be a teacher, Gio bragged. Mike thought of Michelle's fleeting dreams, from Olympic skier to doctor to meteorologist. "Need good teachers," Mike agreed. "Why did you want to be a teacher?" "Miss Davis was smart and talked about the world outside Texas," Tony smiled. "And there ain't no world outside Texas," Gio joked. "Miss Davis lied," Tony laughed. "She said I had to want it and do well in school." "Valedictorian and always on the dean's list," Catherine Marie beamed. "Do you have kids, Mr. Mike?" Tony asked. "I had 2, Mike said, losing a smile. "Had? Lost them?" Joey giggled, earning a slap from Tony. "Divorce," Mike said quietly. After dinner, Mike thanked everyone and hugged Gio. "Been a while," Gio said. "Since I sat at a family table," Mike replied. The next day, Gio barked orders and pointed as usual. At 3, he ended the day. Mike cleaned up, hoping for another dinner invite, but Gio didn't return. Mike went to Tijuana Jack's for a burger and beer. On Friday, Gio handed out paychecks and invited Mike to Joey's football game. Mike cheered for Saints Peter and Paul despite their loss. Tony, in denim shorts and a jersey, sat close, touching Mike's hand, arm, and thigh. Saturday, Mike bought a strawberry shortcake and arrived at Gio's at 6. Cheryl welcomed him and Catherine Marie accepted the cake, joking she didn't need it. Gio teased her as he hugged her from behind. "Joe, we have a guest," Catherine Marie giggled. "They do that all the time," Tony said, rolling her eyes. "What married people do," Mike smiled. Tony blushed and left the kitchen. Gio called her back to set the table. "Hey, I can do that," Mike offered. "You're a guest," Gio protested. "No, I'm family now," Mike said. "Where are the plates?" Tony joined Mike in setting the table. She grabbed knives and forks while Mike folded paper towels into squares. She placed the silverware on the napkins. "I'll let you get the glasses and ice," Mike said. "Hey, Mr. Mike," Joey said. "We played awful last night, huh?" "I thought you did fine. Too bad the other team came to win," Mike smiled. "Yeah, Timmy Elmont, their running back," Joey agreed. Mike discovered Catherine Marie's jambalaya was a simple mix of chicken, pork sausage, rice, diced tomatoes, onions, and bell peppers, with a kick of cayenne pepper.
Ooh, you brought dessert!
Joey cheered when Catherine Marie mentioned the strawberry shortcake. Yes, but I don't need it, she said. Good. More for me, Joey declared. Son has a lot to learn about women, Mike joked. Sunday was long for Mike. Not being religious, he skipped church and football. He tried to sleep in, but eventually got up and dressed in shorts, a t-shirt, and sneakers. Some neighbors in the trailer park waved. Others didn't. Mike walked to Oxbow Lake, where he saw others avoiding church and TV. A tanned blonde caught his eye, looking around for attention but getting none. That's how I feel too, Mike said when she visibly slumped. Monday, Mike and Carlos finished the trim work. While the painters primed and electricians worked, Mike grabbed a broom. Hey, Morrison, Gio called. Tony wants to know if you're coming to dinner tonight. I guess, Mike said, puzzled by Gio's tone. She's only 20, half your age, Gio snapped. Hey, I haven't done anything, Mike protested. Gio stared, then turned to yell orders at the sheetrock crew. Mike left the job site, deciding Carlos and his cousin could handle the final touches. Barbara Trenton reviewed receipts and tapped on her keyboard before addressing Rhonda. So, half of... she began. Can you chip in more? Rhonda whined. Divorce was clear. $400 a month per child, half medical and education expenses, Barbara said. But the car died and... Rhonda complained. Mrs. Piercy. It's Morrison, Rhonda snapped. Interesting. Your failure to plan isn't my client's concern, Barbara stated. Where is your client? He missed Michelle's birthday. We sent a card and a $10 gift card for Benny's Burger Bar, Barbara replied. Her assistant brought in a check, which Barbara signed and slid to Rhonda. Thank you, Mrs. Piercy. I apologize, Mrs. Morrison, Barbara said. Michelle's braces? Rhonda snapped. Mr. Morrison has paid his half for those and other expenses, Barbara said. How can I reach him? Rhonda pleaded. No, Barbara said coldly. Cow, I hope you have kids and deal with someone like you, Rhonda snapped. Raised 3 on my own after my husband left, Barbara replied, still typing. Wonder why he left you, Rhonda sniped. He found a selfish girl who didn't threaten his ego, but she bled him dry and he tried to come back. I'm a made woman and I work hard. I don't open my legs to get what I want. Now get out, Barbara retorted. Hello? Mike answered his phone. Catherine Marie's asking if you're coming to dinner, Gio said. It's chicken cacciatore, or her version of it. I don't think so, but... Mike started. If you don't come, I'm in trouble, Gio said. 6 o'clock, okay? Mike parked, making sure not to block the driveway with his travel trailer. Tony answered the door, smiling until she saw the trailer. Oh, you're going camping? She asked, smiling. No, I'm moving on, Mike admitted. Tony's eyes filled with tears and she ran inside. What the? Catherine Marie asked. What's wrong with her? Come on in, Mike, she greeted with a smile. Joey had set the table and Cheryl was getting the glasses. Tony, dinner's ready, Catherine Marie called. Antoinette, Catherine Marie Tonizetti, she yelled, standing up. She uses your full name, you're in trouble, Joey joked to Mike. Don't tell her mine, Mike smiled. I'll get her, Cheryl offered. Joe, say grace, I'll get her, Catherine Marie ordered. They hesitated but then started eating. 2 plump blonde women with reddened eyes soon joined them. Mike, why are you leaving? Catherine Marie asked. My job's done, Mike said as Gio looked up. We just started rolling it today, Gio said. But my part is finished, Mike pointed out. We're starting the Great Oak National Bank Monday after next, Gio argued. Mr. Mike, please stay, Tony whispered, eyes tearing up. She mouthed please at him. 5 years later, Rhonda Morrison drove down Roberts Drive, admiring the stunning homes. She stopped at 1809, noticing the shiny travel trailer. Mike had poured a concrete pad for it, despite her objections. The yard was neat and colorful, with flowers and a wooden wheelbarrow. Rhonda approached the front door and rang the bell. Yes, a female voice called. Hi, I'm Rhonda. Does Mike Morrison live here? Rhonda said, flustered. And you are? The voice asked, neither friendly nor welcoming. Rhonda grew agitated. She had dressed to impress, but felt sweaty and uncomfortable in the Texas heat. I'm Rhonda Morrison, his ex-wife, she said. Oh, does he know you were coming? The voice asked. No, Rhonda admitted. Just as she was about to ring again, the door opened. Mike looked better than ever, with streaks of silver in his blonde hair, a bronzed face, and a muscular build. Yes? He demanded. Hello, Mike, Rhonda said, smirking. Long time no see. Yes, Mike repeated. Can we talk somewhere? Rhonda asked. Right here's fine, Mike said. Michael, a beautiful young blonde said gently. Rhonda looked at the young woman who had long blonde hair, green eyes, and a gentle expression. She was in a wrap, suggesting they had been swimming. Michael, take her to the sunroom, the woman said with a Texas twang. Fine. Come on, Rhonda, Mike ordered. The blonde woman opened the doors to the sunroom and stepped outside. Rhonda saw a large swimming pool with children playing. The blonde removed her wrap and entered the pool, her body stunning. 5 minutes. Start talking, Rhonda, Mike ordered, pulling her attention from the blonde playing with the children. Really? Rhonda snapped. We were together for 14 years. Can't you be nicer? Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like champagne? Caviar? Where are my manners? Mike replied sarcastically. Come on, get to it. Michelle's getting married next month, the 9th, Rhonda said. How far along is she? Mike asked bluntly. Rhonda blushed. 4.5 months. Mike responded. It would mean a lot if her dad walked her down the aisle, Rhonda said. Do I have to? Mike mimicked bitterly. Like when I wanted to spend my birthday with the kids and they said, do I have to? No, I won't. Tell her to get John Piercy. What else? John Piercy is no longer in our lives, Rhonda snapped. Mike said. He watched as a little girl jumped into the pool. Smiling, he saw the women applaud. The girl ran to the doors. Daddy, did you see me? She shrieked. Yeah, I did, just like a big girl, Mike said, hugging her. I'm Audrey. I'm 4, the girl told Rhonda. Hello, Rhonda said. I'm sorry she ran in, the blonde woman apologized, entering. My mommy's a teacher, Audrey said proudly. Oh, Rhonda replied. Precious, it's fine. She didn't disturb anything, Mike reassured, squeezing his daughter. Show mommy that big jump again, okay? Daddy, you need to watch, Audrey insisted. I'll always watch you, Mike smiled, giving her another squeeze. So why can't Mickey walk his sister down the aisle? Mike asked, watching Audrey jump again. Mickey's in jail, Rhonda admitted. Do I still have to pay child support if he's in jail? Mike wondered aloud. He's still a minor, Rhonda snapped. But you don't have custody, Mike said, standing. 5 minutes is up. See you? Really? I came all this way, begging you to be part of your daughter's wedding, and you just dismiss me? Rhonda shrilled. Did I ask you to come? Mike asked. No, Michelle did, Rhonda snarled. Then maybe Michelle should have come, Mike said, opening the door. Hey guys, you all waterlogged? My fingers are all bumpy, Audrey announced. That's terrible, Mike said. You seem to be doing well, Rhonda snarled. Thanks to no one but myself, Mike smiled. Mike walked Rhonda to the front door. Neither spoke as he closed it behind her. Sweating, Rhonda walked to her car. Inside, Mike joined his wife and the maid in the kitchen, trying to decipher what the children wanted for dinner. Boogers and toes, Mike joked. Don't get them started, his wife smiled. Daddy, I want hot dogs, Russell said. Yeah, hot dogs, echoed Bertrand, his twin. I thought you wanted hamburgers, Carmen, the housekeeper, laughed. I changed my mind, Russell said. How about spaghetti with hot dogs cut up in it? Mike suggested. Yeah, the kids agreed. Daddy, you're the best, his wife smiled, getting the pot for the pasta. After dinner and baths, despite the boys claiming swimming counted as a bath, and after prayers and bedtime stories, Mike walked into the bedroom. Hey, Precious, he said, as his wife came out of the closet in a t-shirt. What did your ex-wife want? She asked, kissing him. To know how you look so good after being stuck with me? Mike smiled. Plenty of protein, she teased, crawling into bed. Really? What did she want? Michelle's getting married next month. She wants me to walk her down the aisle, Mike said, joining her in bed. So, we're going to Raquel Falls? She asked, smiling. Is it snowing there in August? No, we're not going, Mike said. Michael, you need to walk your daughter down the aisle, she insisted, resting her head on his chest. I know it hurt, but, she whispered, searching his eyes. She moved back as he tried to kiss her. Mike remembered meeting her, Tony, at Kennedy Park. They had dated, but there was no real chemistry, just two lonely people. Thankfully, Tony brought up the truth. Michael, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, she admitted. Kind of how I feel, Mike agreed. I care about you, but no long-term romance here. Oh, Tony said. We'll always be friends. You kept me from running off when things got hard, Mike said, squeezing her chubby body. Come on, let's get you home, he said. Just then, a Yorkie charged at a jogger, wrapping her in its retractable leash. The jogger fell hard, and the dog squealed, trapped under her. The woman screamed at the jogger. Mike rushed over, helped the jogger, grabbed the snarling dog, and handed it to its owner. "Hold your animal and drop the leash," Mike ordered, untangling the line. The jogger had a swelling knot on her forehead and a broken ankle. "Tony, get her name and address," Mike said. "I'm not giving you—" The woman started. Mike snapped her picture and called emergency. "We have a jogger with a broken ankle and possible concussion. The nearest vehicle is in Wakulla," the operator said. "Never mind. I'll get her there myself," Mike snapped, carrying the woman to his truck. Tony followed, glaring at the woman and her dog, who left hastily. "Don't worry, got her picture," Mike told Tony, strapping the jogger in. Tony grabbed ice from a vendor and held it to the woman's head as Mike drove to the hospital. The woman moaned softly but was still unconscious when they arrived at the ER. A nurse and orderly took her inside. Mike drove Tony home. They hugged, and she went inside, wiping a tear. Mike debated whether to go back to the hospital, but decided against it due to the late hour. He had a full day ahead with work at Scanduro and his latest foreclosure project. The night they had chicken cacciatore, when Tony begged Mike to stay, he decided to find a more permanent home than his travel trailer. While waiting for Scanduro construction to start on the Great Oak First National Bank, Mike bought a foreclosure in a modest neighborhood. The house was trashed with rotting food, smeared feces, broken windows, and concrete in the toilets. Mike did most of the work himself, using his job to get materials at a good price. While working on that home, the one next door was also foreclosed, and Mike bought it too. Later, he bought 2 more foreclosures on Roberts Drive in a gated community, where owners had overextended their credit. Mike sold 3 properties at a reasonable return and decided to move into the 4th at 1809 Roberts Drive. He worked for Scanduro during the day and on his renovations in the evenings and weekends. His latest project was on Simpson Way, where the owner had hung himself after losing everything. Mike got the house for 1/5 of its value. The gaudy colors and carpets needed changing, but the structure was sound. One evening, instead of heading to Simpson Way, Mike went to Low Ridge Hospital to check on the jogger he'd helped. He didn't know her name, but managed to visit her. "They cut up my shoe to get it off," she said when he entered. "None of them figured out how to untie a knot," Mike joked, meeting her clear green eyes. She asked what happened, and Mike explained about the dog and the leash. As they chatted, Mike felt he recognized her but couldn't place where from. She mentioned she was studying education at Connolly, and he remembered he had picked Tony up there a few times. "By the way, what's your name?" Mike asked. "Precious Cruz," she replied. "Yeah, I know. I don't look Mexican." "So, anyone you need to call?" Mike asked. "No, my mom died last year and my dad disowned me," she said. Mike glanced at his watch, noting he had 2 hours of daylight left for work. He told Precious he'd be back and stood to leave. She smiled sadly as she lowered her bed. Mike then remembered where he had seen her before. "Oxbow Lake," he said. "Huh?" Precious paused. "That's where I've seen you before. You were sunbathing in a green bikini," Mike explained. Precious blushed. "What do you have to feel sad about?" she asked. "I was happily married with 2 kids," Mike said. "My son was named Russell after my old man or Bertrand after my mom's dad. My granddad could carve amazing things from wood." Mike shared this as Precious listened, both of them connecting over their shared experiences and hardships. "So, what did you name him?" Precious asked softly, taking his hand. "Rhonda decided on Mike Jr. We called him Mickey," Mike said. "That's a good name. I like it." Precious smiled. "Yeah, I was named after my dad's brother who died in Nam," Mike agreed. "And your little girl?" Precious asked. "Audrey," Mike said. "Oh, I love that name," Precious enthused. "It was my mom's name, but Rhonda chose Michelle Christina instead." "Do you see them often?" she asked. "Been a few months. They're in Raquel Falls with a pool and boogie board. What do they need with their dad?" Mike stayed until an orderly brought her dinner. He surprised them both with a gentle kiss. The next morning, Mike was working on the bank's main lobby when his phone rang, playing Back in Black. "Michael?" Precious's soft voice asked. "Uh-huh," Mike said, wiping sweat off his face. "They're discharging me today." "I'll be there soon," Mike said. He informed Gio of the emergency and left for the hospital. An orderly wheeled Precious to the curb. Mike lifted her into his truck and helped her buckle up. "Where to?" he asked. "Home," she said, giving directions to the Spanish Arms apartments. She then remembered her car was at Kennedy Park. Mike drove there without hesitation. She pointed to a 2005 Volkswagen Beetle. "Shut up, it's cute," she laughed when Mike mocked the car. Mike parked and helped her out. Seeing her plaster boot, he realized she couldn't drive. Okay, I'll drop you off and then drive your car to your apartment, Mike decided. That's too much, Precious argued. You can't drive like that, Mike insisted. Back at Spanish Arms, Mike noticed Precious lived on the third floor. They didn't give you crutches? He asked. No, she realized. How are you going to manage the stairs? Mike asked. I don't know, she said, bursting into tears. Get your key, Mike ordered. He carried her up to her apartment, left her there, and drove to get some boxes from a supermarket. What are those for? Precious asked, hobbling to the door. Pack what you need for the next couple of weeks. You're staying with me until you can get around. Precious was about to argue, but realized she couldn't manage on her own. Your apartment is on the ground floor? She asked. Yours will be, Mike assured her. Give me your car keys. I'll be back. Oh, don't want to help me pack? She teased. No, I've seen enough of women's drawers. Mike smiled and kissed her lightly before leaving. He rented a hitch and harness, towed her car to his place, and returned to help her. Ready? He asked, lifting her into his truck. Then he fetched the boxes. Anything else? He asked. Nope, she said, surprising him with a kiss. Thank you, Michael. Mike locked her apartment and drove to his home. So, my apartment's on the ground floor? She asked. Your bedroom is. It's a 3-story house, but I haven't been to the 3rd floor except to paint and change carpets, Mike said, turning onto Roberts Drive. Oh my, I come here at Christmas, Precious said, looking around. Christmas? Mike asked. Yeah, these houses go all out with lights, she explained. Like Clark Griswold? Mike asked. Who? Precious replied. Griswold. Christmas Vacation, Mike said. When Mike pulled up to his house, Precious was still craning her neck to look at the 3rd-story windows. You need something in each window for Christmas lights, Precious said as he helped her out of the truck. Mike asked, closing the door. When you do your Christmas lights, she repeated, holding her arms out for him to pick her up again. He unlocked the door, then ran back to scoop her up. Carrying me across the threshold, she quipped. When I do, you should at least have a nice dress on, Mike smiled. What's wrong with fiberglass? Precious asked, waggling her cast. All the models are wearing them. Uh-huh. Puts the ugh in ugly, Mike joked, placing her on the couch. Love this couch. Is this where I'm staying? No, I'll carry you to the bedroom after I get your stuff in, Mike said, quickly moving her boxes inside. Then he carried her to the bedroom. You're a man, Precious quipped, looking at the austere furniture. Mike chuckled as he laid her on the bed. She didn't let go. Thank you, Michael, she said softly, kissing him. You're welcome. Need the bathroom? Right across the hall, she said. Mind reader or my eyes turning yellow? Mike carried her to the small bathroom and quickly exited, shutting the door. Holler when you're done, he called through the door. Mike found more pillows and brought an old TV into her room. He cooked her some soup and used a rusty cookie sheet as a tray. He also rented crutches for Precious, starting their 5 weeks of cohabitation. The first few mornings, she lightly complained about being woken up early for breakfast. By the 3rd morning, she was awake, arms outstretched, waiting for him to carry her to the kitchen. Got your crutches? Mike asked on the 4th morning as he scooped her up. But I like when you carry me, she whispered. Mike realized she had gotten up, brushed her teeth, and returned to bed just to be ready for him. Honestly, I like carrying you too, he said. Joe complained about Mike taking time off for Precious's doctor visits and therapy sessions. Teresa White, a lawyer recommended by a coworker, helped Precious sue Mary Booker, the Yorkie's owner. This took more time away from the job. Mike, we all got stuff to do. Can't schedule this for after work, Joe complained. When Mike needed another early afternoon off, Joe exploded. More important to have a job or whatever this is? Joe spat. Mike didn't answer, and the next morning Joe screamed at him in front of everyone. Mike smiled, nodded, and walked off the job site. Hey, you're home early, Precious said, looking up from a textbook. Uh-huh, Mike grumbled. Do I have an appointment? Precious asked, alarmed. No, I got run off the job, Mike said. What happened? Precious asked, patting the cushion next to her. Mike sat and explained the tension from dating Gio's daughter and his frequent absences. Why didn't you say something? I would have gotten a friend to take me, Precious said. But I wanted to take you, Mike admitted. Why? Precious asked, peering into his eyes. Because I'm in love with you, he admitted. And I'm in love with you, Michael Arthur Morrison, Precious whispered, then kissed him. Now unemployed, Mike bought more foreclosed homes, did repairs, and continued making money. Being his own boss gave him time to take Precious to appointments and on outings. On one such outing to the Hogshead, a barbecue restaurant Precious loved, Mike realized his true status. "Hey, Prez," a muscular young man sneered. Oh, hi, Barry," Precious replied flatly. "This your dad?" Barry asked, trying to sit next to her. Precious blocked him with her hand. "No, this is my fiancé, Michael Morrison." "Michael, this is Barry. I used to date him," Precious said. "You're what?" Barry mocked. "My fiancé," Precious said firmly. "Hey, Allison." "What's up, girl?" Barry sighed. "I found out there's a huge difference between men and little boys." Precious smiled sweetly. "Hey, Precious. Barry, the ribs are here," Allison said. Barry glared at Mike, jostled the table, and walked away. "Your fiancé?" Mike asked as the waitress brought their brisket platters. "You didn't know?" Precious smiled, mixing sauces on her brisket. She held out her finger covered in sauce. "Want to get married the day after Christmas?" she asked as Mike sucked the sauce from her finger. "Gives me a month to find the perfect ring," Mike agreed. Precious smiled triumphantly and wider when Mike imitated her sauce mixing. "Gives me time to get this cast off. Can you two-step?" she asked. "I'll learn," Mike said. Brandon Wright of the Fellowship Non-Denominational Church performed their wedding. The ceremony was loud and joyous, reflecting Brandon's love of God and preaching. Mike had learned the Texas two-step and swing. The fellowship hall was filled with cheers as the DJ kept everyone dancing. The Hogshead Barbecue catered the event, and guests enjoyed the meal. Tony Tonasetti congratulated Mike and Precious, but then locked herself in a bathroom stall to sob. Emmanuel Wright, Brandon's son, offered her a handkerchief. "Seeing others happy can be hard," he said quietly. Tony dabbed at her tears. "When my cousin Amelia got married, I wanted to punch the guy," Emmanuel admitted. "Oh yeah." Tony smiled slightly. "Yeah, but sanity prevailed. The guy's a nose tackle for Connolly Cougars," Emmanuel joked. "Ouch," Tony agreed. "Why haven't you danced yet?" Emmanuel asked. "Let's go," he said, grabbing her hand. 9 months and 2 days after their wedding, Mike and Precious were at Low Ridge Hospital for the birth of Bertrand Michael and Russell. 17 months later, Tony and Emmanuel were having their first child while Precious was having their daughter Audrey. In the present, the Morrisons traveled back to Mike's town to make amends with his children. "I can't believe," Mike grumbled as they stepped off the plane in Benhus, Colorado. "New Texas finally got tired of your ugly face," Lyle Curtis, Mike's former boss, joked as he hugged him. "Hey, Lyle, what are you doing here?" Mike laughed. "Less hair, more gut. You?" Lyle laughed. "I'm good. Lyle, meet my family. Honey, don't worry about any incriminating evidence he has on you," Mike joked. "Morrison, huh?" Precious asked. "He thinks I'm blackmailing you," Mike explained. "No kidding. Bertrand and Russell, I knew them," Lyle said, shaking the twins' hands. "And not scared of anything," Mike stated. "I know you booked a suite at the Hilton, but you're staying at my house," Lyle said, grabbing their suitcases. "Mr. Curtis," he joked. "You sure?" Precious asked. "Mr. Curtis?" Lyle asked. "That is my name," Precious said. "Oh, suits you," Lyle said. After they settled in, with Mike and Precious in the guest room, Audrey in Lyle's daughter's old room, and the twins on the sofa bed, Mike took a deep breath. "I'll check on the boys," Precious said. "Give you some privacy," she said, kissing him. "Love you." "Love you," Mike said. "She's your daughter, Michael. She's a part of you," Precious counseled, then left the room. "Hello?" a guarded girl's voice answered. "Hey, it's your dad," Mike said. "Who?" "Oh, Dad," Michelle said. "Yeah, listen, we're in town and going to Benny's Burger Bar around 6. Would love to see you there," Mike said. "Yeah, sure," Michelle sneered. "I've got 1,000 of these dumb gift cards to use." "Great," Mike said, and ended the call. Precious looked up from the video game Bertrand and Russell were playing when Mike entered, noticing his scowl. "Benny's Burger Bar, 6 o'clock, Mike said. "And?" Precious asked softly. "And she sounded like a snotty little brat, just like at 13, Mike spat. "Whenever I expect the worst, I'm rarely disappointed," Precious said. "With my second graders, some are sweet, but some are tough. When I drop expectations, things go better." "Don't know why I let you talk me into this," Mike said, smiling as Bertrand found the pot of gold in the game. "Because I promised you a special night." "You did?" Mike whispered into her ear. There is that," Precious agreed. "But not here," Precious giggled as Mike reached around her waist. At 6 o'clock, Mike herded Audrey and Russell into the restaurant with Precious and Bertrand just behind. Bertrand had spotted a Porsche 911 and wanted a closer look. Mike scanned the room, feeling disappointment and anger when he didn't see Michelle. "She here?" Precious whispered, taking Mike's hand. "Nope," Mike said bluntly. Maybe she's stuck in traffic, Precious suggested. Did you see any traffic out there? Mike asked harshly. Raquel Falls doesn't have traffic jams. So, how do we do this? Precious asked, helping guide the kids to the counter. First, you order your burger. Quarter pound, half pound, or 1 pound? Mike said. A 20-pound? Audrey asked. Daddy's joking. It's 1 pound. Precious giggled. Then you choose bacon, cheese, or both. How about half bacon, half cheese? Russell asked. Now you're getting it, Mike said. Then when the burger's ready, you go to the bar with over 40 toppings. Boogers? Bertrand asked. Bertrand? Precious said disapprovingly. No, those you bring yourself, Mike said. But there's blue cheese, salsa, jalapenos, onion straws. Sounds like you've been here before. The girl behind the counter smiled. Used to be my favorite place, Mike admitted. Michelle arrived 20 minutes late, nodded at Mike, dawdled over ordering and fixing her burger. Hi, she snapped, slapping her tray down. About 5 months along? Mike asked, noting her paunch. Uh-huh, Michelle said, stuffing her mouth with burger. I'm 2 months along, Precious said, trying to connect. That's nice, Michelle said. So, Dad, let's get to it. Your mother says you're getting married this Saturday, Mike said, fighting his anger. Yeah, heard you said. Who cares? Michelle replied. Anyway, I came to see you get married. Wanted you to meet your brothers and sister, Mike said. Fine, Michelle said, gulping soda. I'm Precious, Precious offered. I'm sure you are, Michelle smirked. That's her name, Mike said through clenched teeth. Precious Morrison. This is Audrey. I'm 4, Audrey announced. And the big guys are Bertrand and Russell, Mike said. Guys, this is your big sister, Michelle. Hi, Bertrand said. I'm 4, Audrey repeated. Hi, Russell said. So you thought I'd be all, oh, hi, great to see you, don't worry about ditching me, huh? Michelle snarled. No, I hoped you'd say, hey, sorry I was a selfish brat. Acted like spending time with my dad was a burden, but I've grown up. Guess we're both disappointed, Mike spat. Daddy said crap, Audrey whispered to Precious. I heard him, Precious said, pinching Audrey's nose. And I heard you say it too, she admonished. Nah, I was just telling on Daddy, Audrey denied. Don't bother Daddy, Michelle spat, shoving her tray and spilling her drink. Don't come to my wedding, I don't want you there. No problem, Mike shrugged, grabbing the tray before the soda spilled. We'll drop your present off at your mother's, Precious offered as Michelle stormed out. Whatever, cow, Michelle sneered, shoving the door open. She said, Audrey started. And if you say it, you'll get a spanking, Precious warned. So, what did y'all think of Benny's Burger Bar? She asked as they left. Next time, more pickles, Bertrand said. And barbecue sauce, Russell agreed. Mike smiled at their enthusiasm. He and Precious exchanged smiles over the minivan. After dropping Precious and the kids off for ice cream, Mike drove to the address Barbara Trenton, his attorney, had given him. He double-checked the address when he pulled up to the dilapidated apartment complex. Yo, can't park there. That's my boy's spot. Know what I'm saying? A boy, about 15 or 16, said. The sign says visitors. Your boy's name is Visitors? Mike snapped, grabbing a wrapped package from the passenger seat. If you let me hold $5, the boy suggested. Ain't gonna happen. And pull your pants up, kid, Mike said, keeping an eye on Lizzie's minivan as he knocked on Rhonda's door. He winced at the loud knock. What? Who's there? What do you want? Rhonda's voice was harsh. It's Mike, Mike called out, still watching the van. Here to drop off Michelle's wedding present. Yeah, heard the meeting went great, Rhonda smirked, opening the door. Where's Barbie? Who? Mike asked, thrusting the package at her. Your little Texas wife, Rhonda sneered. Go screw yourself, Mike spat. Thought you'd trade up, but can't stand it that I did. Great trade. Think I'll keep mine, Mike smiled and turned, ignoring Rhonda's tirade. He walked down the stairs and opened the van door. Kept an eye on the wheels. About $1, the boy wheedled. Pull your pants up. Any idea how ignorant you look? Mike snarled and slammed the van door. The kid gave Mike the finger. Mike revved the engine and put the van in gear. He laughed as the kid, eyes wide with fright, fell flat on his back. Mike reversed and texted Precious that he was on his way to Scooters. Daddy got you a double-dipped double chocolate, Precious said when Mike entered. Scooters got you a big old sloppy kiss, Mike said and kissed Precious noisily. Michael, quit! Precious giggled as the kids laughed. Mike's meeting with Mickey fared slightly better than with Michelle. The 17-year-old was sullen and uncommunicative, barely looking up from the table in the small room. Thanks for the cheap Benny's Burger Bar gift cards, Mickey finally sneered. You're welcome, Mike said easily. $10 don't buy anything at Benny's, Mickey said. I know. A quarter pound and fries with a drink is at least 14, Mike smiled. Then why'd you send a $10 gift card? Mickey asked angrily. So you'd have to pay a little yourself, Mike smiled. Why'd you even come here? Mickey demanded. Honestly? Wanted to see if there was any of that kid left, Mike admitted. Saw your sister. There's nothing left of the girl who played a tree in her first grade play, smiling and waving at me. And I hoped there'd be some of that little buddy I went fishing with. Remember that rainbow trout? 6.5 pounds, Mike said. First thing out of your mother's mouth? I ain't cleaning that thing, Mike recalled. But she ate the hell out of the fillets. How'd you get all those fillets? Mickey asked. Bought 3 more trout, Mike chuckled, stepping out into the hall. Dad, Mickey cried as the door slammed shut. Precious was true to her word. Mike tried to reconnect with his kids and even spoke with Barbara Trenton about helping Mickey. Barbara charged $3,000 but represented Mickey in his trial. Mickey was sentenced to 2 years in a state penitentiary but got assigned to 5 Tribes, a medium security facility. Mike learned he was a grandfather when Michelle gave birth to Louise Charlotte Shrinton, a 3-pound, 2-ounce baby who didn't live to see her 1-week anniversary. Mike's tears were heartfelt as he sent condolences to Michelle and her husband. 7 months later, Precious gave birth to Olivia Nicole Morrison. Mike was overjoyed but haunted by a strange sense of pain. He held his daughter, but could never hold his granddaughter. 3 weeks later, tragedy struck again. Precious, waiting for Audrey to return from school, was hit by a speeding pickup truck. Audrey witnessed the accident. 3 hours later, Precious was on life support. Mike was stunned, processing the phone call that shattered his world. He drove to the hospital feeling detached, holding Audrey but not feeling her touch. He saw Audrey crying but couldn't find words for her. His silence broke when the doctor finally said, Mr. Morrison, I tried my best. She is in a better place now. Mike stood in silence for what felt like an eternity, only coming back to his senses when Audrey shook his hand and asked, Can we see Mom? Mike knew it was time for the hardest conversation of his life. We might not see Mommy again. God asked her to come stay with him in heaven. She's in a deep sleep and might not wake up for a long time. He wasn't sure if Audrey understood, but she said, Okay, let her sleep. We should go home. The baby needs to feed. It's been a long time without Mommy. Mike didn't know if Audrey was playing a game or had grown up to become the lady of the house. 3 days later, Precious lay in her casket, dressed in her wedding gown. Mike placed his hand on her chest, feeling the absence of her heartbeat for the first time. He couldn't hold back his tears, regretting never fully expressing his love. He looked up at the cross and prayed, Just one moment. Give her life so I can tell her how much I loved her and feel her heartbeat one last time. Everyone gave their eulogies, and then Audrey, with a piece of paper in hand, walked to the stand. Mike, already teary-eyed, went to the men's room to cry in private. He could still hear Audrey's voice over the sound system. My name is Audrey. I am 4 years old. My daddy must be in the potty. He doesn't like people to see him cry. My mom is the most beautiful and strongest woman. My daddy told me God wants her to stay with him for a while. I'm not sure when she'll be back, but I know she'll enjoy her stay. If my mom is watching me from heaven, I want her to know I love her and will miss her. My mom's name is Precious, and she is very precious to me and my daddy. My little sister can't speak yet, but I know she misses Mommy too. So God, please send her back soon. Thank you, everyone. Please don't cry. My mommy is with God. Her speech brought tears to every eye. Mike quickly ran out, hugged Audrey, and let his tears flow. Audrey held him and whispered, I am here for you, Daddy. After the funeral, they went home. 2 years later, Mickey was out of prison, but quickly fell back into old habits. He hired a hooker and got high on powder. They died in a car wreck he caused. Mike attended his funeral but didn't speak or console Rhonda. After everyone left, he placed a white flower on Mickey's grave. Rhonda stood behind him, saying, I'm sorry, Mike. If only I had kept the family together. My desire for more took away my husband, my family, and now my son. I never knew my actions would destroy everything. Mike said nothing and walked away. He saw Rhonda one last time at her funeral 10 years later. Michelle handed him a letter from Rhonda. Mom wanted you to have this. Mike pocketed the letter and read it at home. Rhonda had written just 3 words, I am sorry. In her last days, she sought his forgiveness. Mike folded the letter and kept it in his drawer. That night, he stood on the porch, lost in thought, when his daughter joined him. I saw the letter. Didn't I teach you not to read personal letters? Well, I forgot. But all she wanted was your forgiveness. She's gone now, so your hate won't affect her. You sound like your mother, Mike said. I can't help it. Must be in the genes. I did forgive her. Just don't know if she'll ever know it. I forgave her when I married your mom. I just never told her. Now I can't. You don't need to tell her. Just tell yourself. Mike slept well that night, amazed at how a 14-year-old could talk like an adult. 23 years later, he was sleeping again, this time forever. Audrey gave his eulogy. My name is Audrey. Last time I was here, I was 4 at my mom's funeral. That day, my daddy told me my mom was with God, and we'd meet her one day. What he didn't tell me was the wait would be a lifetime. Today, my daddy beat me to it. He's finally with the one he loved. When Mom died, people said he'd become a booze user and wreck his life. But he loved her too much for that. He lived on to show how much he loved her. He never remarried or dated. For him, we were his life. He was both father and mother to us. He taught me about life, took me shopping for my prom dress, taught me to cook, fish, and be a good human. He ensured we were educated and had good lives. There aren't enough words to describe his kindness and love. I hope he finds his precious in heaven. And Daddy, if you're watching, we all love you. Mike was laid to rest beside Precious. All his children stood together near the graves of 2 people who loved each other, now together forever.